Welcome to episode 3 of our series, The World is Your Oyster. I am here with my husband and wildly successful entrepreneur, love of my life, Braden Burton. We're going to be talking about balancing entrepreneurship, family life, how we communicate, navigating running businesses together, having babies together, and the legacy that we want to leave for our family. Welcome to episode 3. Let's get into it. Today, I want to talk just a little bit about navigating parenthood as entrepreneurs.
Well, if you're an entrepreneur before you're a parent, you kind of have a head start, I think, because you can you realize you just got to constantly figure it out, man. You know, you got to just deal with what's in front of you. I think our first boy is about to be 4, and every season of, him growing up has been different, and there's new challenges to figure out. So I'd say one thing Courtney and I like to say is we're on the same team, if we start to argue or something hits the fan, it's whoa, dude, same team here. How can I help you? How can I support you? So that's kind of what we take into parenting is we're not going to know it all. For sure. I don't think you ever fully know what to do or, how to do the next thing. And I think we've realized if you want to be, we do want to be good parents and we try to be good parents. And so I think just having that kind of always creates that feeling of you're not doing enough or you could be doing more. Yeah. And as an entrepreneur, it's the same thing, right? I could always be doing more. We could always have more sales. We could be marketing more. And so you kind of have to just get comfortable with where we're at and what we're figuring it out and keep our feet here and now. And so I think that's something we tend to do pretty well, I would say.
Yeah. And it really is. It's so parallel with entrepreneurship. It's we don't know what we're doing, but we're going for it. And that's literally what parenting is.
Well, and that's where just having that same, that North Star of we want to parent this certain way, or again, we're on the same team, right? What is this going to look like long term? And then, so now we're doing it, we're in it together, man.
And we waited, we were married for 8 years before we had our son. We waited a while to make sure, because once again, we built our businesses around our lives. And around our lifestyle of wanting to travel and have the freedom and go on adventures and be able to snowmobile on a Tuesday. And sometimes I think a lot of people have this preconceived notion that having kids, you have to stop your life and change your life and do something completely different than what you're doing.
Well, and I think a lot of people recognize that with how we do live our lives after having a kid is we very much from the beginning said it as we're bringing this kid into our lives.
Yeah.
We are not going to make our lives around this kid. And so that changes, just that insight right there changes a lot of things. And you have to still have things to look forward to in life. Obviously being a father is one of my greatest achievements, accomplishments, things I love to do in life. But I still have to be able to chase other things, whether it's career or what lights me up or things that I want to do with my life. So our son, he's very much in our life, and then we're going to support him, any way we can as well.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. What you said is that we decided that he was going to come into our lives. And there are 2 different kinds of families out there. And this is especially in the Western culture, in our culture with parenting. A lot of families are very kid-centric, as opposed to most other cultures are more family-centric. And so it's more of a whole of what the family wants, as opposed to oh, well, we have to set up our kid for success with these sports now, and they're 4, right? I'm dude, they're 4. Let them go, let them be kids, let them have fun. Or we can't do this because our child wants, even activities. I was reading this article about how a lot of families, a lot of parents are doing these kid-centric activities, and the activities are all around what is going to entertain the kid, as opposed to this is what our family wants to do as a whole. We love camping, and that is a family-centric activity for us, because it's not we're going camping and just all on our son. It's all about him. No, you're going dirt biking, I'm going hiking, and he's just coming along for the ride. And I think that has been a really main focus on our parenting.
I mean, I think for a lot of people, the struggle is like, oh, you're selfish. You know what I mean? Like, you're doing stuff for you, not your kid. And having a kid, man, takes a lot of time and energy, right? Like, you have to be selfless. You have to pour into your children. And I think we do that, like, more than most people do. You know, when we go camp or go in the RV for a bit, like, I'm fully immersed with my son. I'm hanging out with him all day, every day. I'm taking him to the playground. I'm like, we're showing him really cool stuff around the country or wherever we are. And so I think, yeah, it's tough because, like, if I'm not selfish and I don't chase the things I want to chase, what am I showing him is what I come back to, right? Like, he sees it, man. Like, sometimes he's like, Dad, I'm going to build houses. I'm going to build houses with you, you know? So I think that's so super cool because they absorb so much. And that was, like, I think the thing that surprised me so much having a child is, like, once he was 2 or, you know, he's 3 now, like, they see and absorb so much, you know, from how we act and how we interact. And so I'd say we're pretty conscious of, like, what are we putting out there and how are we acting, you know, around him. And the big one is this, right? Like, how often are we just staring at the phone or sitting on the couch, and, like, what are we showing him by doing that? And so, I mean, not gonna lie, that's a struggle, right?
It's a struggle for both of us.
Yeah.
100%. Like, even, I mean, and I saw a reel about this. Somebody did a post being like, this is what our kids see as opposed to, like, this. And so I think that really is important and something that we've been working on. But listen, when you're an entrepreneur as well, it's hard because there's no, like, I'm clocked out, right? Like, as much as we try to, and I try to, like, listen.
But I would say there is time where it's clock out.
Yeah, and you have to.
Courtney's very much just working all the time. And again, from the operations guy, it's like, well, man, schedule your freaking time, you know? Figure it out.
What I've gotten much better at. We had the...
Schedule your work time. If you don't control it, it's going to control you. And, you know, it goes the same with, like, his toys and stuff like that. Like, I can control how many toys he has and what that insanity looks like. You know, I can't control, like, how he plays with them or whatever, but control the controllables, you know?
Yeah. Any last advice that you would give entrepreneurial parents with raising their kids? I mean, like I said, we're not perfect at it. We're just kind of going for it and doing our best, but...
Yeah, I think the main thing there is giving ourselves grace, you know, like I know I've become a lot better at just celebrating my wins, realizing, like, how good a job I am doing, you know what I mean? And, like, man, that's just, I don't think people do that enough. Like, you got to celebrate when you do spend time with your kid or the things you're doing right. Because, again, if you want to be a good parent, which I think
we all do.
Yeah, I mean, not all people do, I would say. But most people do, and if you want to be a good parent, then 9 times out of 10 you are, and you maybe just not realizing or recognizing all that you do for your children, you know. And I've had that conversation with some older friends of mine, some while traveling the world, of like, hey, I bought my son a house, or, you know, I did all of this for my kid, and they didn't realize that or, like, pat themselves on the back for it. So, you know, like, I think we do a really good job, and it's hard to even want to say that, right? Because it's like, oh, what's, you know, your ego's in the way, or what are you boasting about? But it's like, no, man, we're present with our kid, you know, and there'll always be outside opinions. There'll always be people that say, oh, like, why do you guys work so much? You don't spend enough. And it's like, dude, you realize I just spent 6 months in an RV and hung out with my child every single day.
Yeah.
Like, I hang out with him more than most people do. And so I get it on both ends. I work too much, and I play too much. And I think the important realization there is, like, it doesn't matter. It's like, it's up to you and how you feel. And so the big thing there is, like, are you patting yourself on the back, or are you recognizing what you're doing? And if you're not, then change it. But yeah, give yourself some grace as a parent, man, because you're just figuring it out as you go.
Yep. We all are. We all are. Awesome. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to subscribe. We have one more in our series, and we're going to talk about leaving a legacy for our family and what that looks like as business owners, as entrepreneurs, what we're really working towards, because we've talked a lot about vision and goals over these last 3 episodes, but really it comes down to, like, this big vision for your life. How we determine as a couple our big visions for our lives, how we're installing that in our children, and how we're actually going for it. So make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next week.